You're listening to an episode of the Abigail Pugh podcast with, you guessed it, Abigail Pugh. I'm an introverted mama who took my online business from 0 to 7 figures in 15 months selling my own digital products on social media. And guess what? I did it all with my 3-year-old daughter no less than 3 feet away from me at all times. Now I'm bringing you everything I've learned about building a wildly profitable online business that supports your life while allowing you to truly live it. Get ready for raw, honest conversations with entrepreneurs making thousands per month selling their own digital products and people just like you who ditch self-doubt to create the life they've always wanted. If you're ready to make more money, have more impact, and still have time for the things that matter most, you're in the right place. Grab your sneakers, head out on your hot girl walk, and let's dive in. I am so excited for today's guest. So for the past year or so, I have been detoxing from mold poisoning and really just getting in tune with my hormones to kind of just level everything out. And a few months ago, someone mentioned cycle syncing and I immediately became obsessed, right? I started planning my launches and really anything in my business that required more energy from me around my cycle. And it has made a huge difference in the quality of the work I'm able to get done and overall just the quality of my health. So I thought it would be amazing to have a hormone health coach join us on the podcast today to talk all about how we as female entrepreneurs can sync our cycle to our business. And I actually found Emily from a Threads post I did asking for any experts on this topic. And when I tell you I was immediately obsessed with her content, like immediate follow, immediate, oh my gosh, I need this girl on my podcast. I was so excited when I found her. Emily is not only, like I said, the cutest and sweetest girl ever, but she's also a hormone health coach who helps women like you and me balance our hormones and use our cycle to our advantage instead of letting it ruin our lives. So, Emily, welcome to the podcast. I am so excited you're here.
Thank you. I'm so excited. This is my jam. This is what I eat, sleep, live, and breathe. So I'm so excited. And I'm so excited to dive into the business aspect because I do touch all over on hormones on my page, cycle syncing, all that good stuff. But I think this is truly like the missing piece and the key to running a business without burnout as a female entrepreneur.
Oh my gosh, music to all of our ears hearing that. So I'd love to kind of just jump into how you got into being a hormone health coach and cycle syncing in general. Like, is there a story behind it? Did something happen with your hormones? Take us through that.
Yes. I feel like that's kind of, for a lot of people, at least in the health space, coaches and whatnot, it's like you make your mess your message. And so, yeah, I went through hell really with my hormones. I got on birth control at age 15 for really no reason. Like my periods weren't crazy, just everyone else was on it. I think that's kind of what moms back in our day were doing. It's like, oh, everyone's on it. Here you go. They thought they were doing the right thing. So I got on birth control. Everything was great, honestly, until I was about 23. Things just started to backfire. I started to gain weight rapidly out of nowhere. I was breaking out. I had no libido. I had brain fog, like all of these things. And so at the time, I was actually becoming a health coach. So I've always been passionate about health and wellness, always. I got a psychology degree. And even through college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like no idea. Like everyone around me was like, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be this. I had no clue. All I knew is I love people and I loved psychology. So I was like, I'll just pick this and run with it. So I did that. I graduated, still had no idea what I was going to do. I actually went on a trip to Costa Rica and I met this random couple, okay, at this little breakfast joint. And they did what everyone does. Oh, congrats, you just graduated. What are you going to do? And I was like, everyone keeps asking me that. And I have no idea. They were like, well, what do you love? And I was like, health and wellness. Like at the time I was even like, maybe I'll start a wellness blog. This was 10, 12 years ago when like Instagram wasn't what it is today. And so they were like, we did this thing where we became health coaches. Like you should look into it. So I was like, oh, that sounds cool. Went home from Costa Rica. I was enrolled like the day after getting home.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
It was so fun. It was one of those things where it was like a full body yes.
Yep.
But then I graduated through my health coaching program, so Institute for Integrative Nutrition, but they didn't teach business at the time. So I still like didn't know what to do. I had all this knowledge, was like, I don't know what I'm doing though. I don't know how to do this on Instagram because in their day, it's like face to face, right?
Yeah.
They tell you like, go to your local community center, like host a workshop. And I was like,
over my dead body.
yeah, literally, that's not scalable. First of all, like I can't it just never felt right to me. So I was like, I'm going to try this Instagram thing. And so from there, I just hired like business coach to business coach and programs and masterminds and all of that. And at the time, I was going through a lot with my hormones. I was going from doctor to doctor. They were like, what you're feeling is normal. I had brain fog. I had no libido. I had acne. I was gaining weight. My periods were terrible.
I can't believe that they said that was normal. Like, that's insane to me.
Yeah. When I said, well, I have like no sex drive, they're like, well, that's normal, sweetie. Like,
Oh my gosh. No.
the gaslighting that I went through. And I was like, none of this. And I also had gut problems at the time. Okay. So that on top of gut problems, couldn't eat anything without my stomach hurting. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to figure this out myself. So I started doing so much research, reading books, watching podcasts, listening to interviews, everything I could, just soaking up all the information. And then IIN at the time also had a hormone health course and a gut health course. So I did that and I was like, this is it. I started to feel better. I healed myself. And I was like, this is what I'm going to help women with. Like, no one should have to go through what I went through, and no one should have to be told that this is normal when they can feel amazing and they can understand their bodies and they can live in tune. So, yeah, fast forward to today. And then it's kind of morphed from there as my life has changed and my life has pivoted. And I've grown, right? My Instagram, my account, my business, everything has grown to my wildest dreams. Like, never in a million years did I think it would turn into this, and it's still going and it's so fun. But I have learned along the way that you cannot. My husband is a business owner, okay? Fiance, I call my husband. But whatever. And he is so different. I watched him run his business and scale it to like 7 figures in the past, however long. But I've known him 10 years. And I'm like, he tries to give me advice. I'm like, babe, that wouldn't work for me. Well, I could try and I could show you that I would just nosedive into the ground because of burnout. And so I began to go, how many other women are dealing with this? And I learned almost everyone.
Yep. And hold up real quick. You mentioned your fiance, right? Is it true that men have a 24-hour hormone clock?
Yep.
Right. So they're like resetting every 24 hours, whereas we have a 28-day cycle?
Yeah. 28 to 35 is like a healthy menstrual cycle, but it's longer than a day. Yeah. Men, they wake up, they go to sleep. It's the same. They're just like a little machine. That's what the 9 to 5. They're like kind of like robots, honestly, in that sense. They're not. We are essentially 4 different women over the course of the month, which sounds crazy. But I bet the second you hear that, you feel validated and it resonates of like, oh, so I'm not supposed to feel the same way, have the same motivation, creativity, drive every day of the month. Like, it's such a relief, honestly. It's like this permission slip to go, okay.
And it just makes so much more sense. Like, I feel like women were kind of set up for failure when it came to 9-to-5s. And I never really had a traditional 9-to-5, right? Like, I was a nanny, I was a house manager. I like always did these like unconventional jobs. So I was kind of able to, work around those things my way, but still like this, like clocking in every day, doing the same exact thing every day. Like, I cannot vibe with that, even just, creatively. Right. And I used to feel like, oh, why am I not able to do this every single day? Whereas my husband can like write out his checklist for the day and be fine with getting like the exact same things done every day. And I'm like, I will literally lose my mind if I do that. And now I'm like, oh, it makes perfect sense that we're not set up for that.
No, it really is the craziest thing because you learn, and at first it feels very weird to kind of let go of this 9 to 5 grind every day hustle and start to work with your hormones in the same way that I'm sure if people like used to track their calories and now they intuitively eat, it's scary.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no structure to it. What do I do? Your body knows what to do. Like, once you tune in,
Yeah.
And it's so cool.
Yeah. And I feel like too, it's hard not to feel like, oh, I'm not doing anything, so I'm not moving forward. Like, that's been one of the hardest things for me is like when I'm in a certain phase of my cycle, I'm not as creative. I like need more rest. And I always have this little thought in the back of my brain that's like, you need to be doing more. You need to be doing this. Like, what if you don't hit your revenue goals? What if this? And just really telling myself like, okay, this is for the better good. Next week, you will be feeling ready to go and creative and you'll get so much more done the next week. But it's hard to rest. It is hard to like take a seat back, especially when my husband's like, he can go and go and go. Like, he could do the same thing and he's fine. And I'm like, I'm losing my mind today and I need to be on the couch and watch Friends all day, which, I can't do because I have a 3-year-old, but
Yeah. A good rot day. I call that a couch rot day. And
yes.
it's
Oh my gosh.
necessary. And it does feel unsafe or scary or actually can induce anxiety if you've
Hmm.
kind of grown up in this productivity culture and we've been
Yep.
raised and that's how I was. I was really good at school. Later I was like, maybe I have ADHD, I don't know, but school was easy for me. Running a business at first was not. Because I was like, okay, I'm really good. If someone like maps it out, I'm great.
Yeah.
And then having this like, oh wait, I'm in charge now and I had to do this. And so like actually cycle syncing kind of provided a structure
Hmm.
where before I'm like you, I never worked a real job, right? I mean, this doesn't feel like a real job because it's so fun for me, but I've never had a corporate 9 to 5. I worked
Yeah.
in a restaurant for 10 years as I became a health coach, and then I continued to work in there to support it. Worked part time at naturopathic offices and things like that. And there was one time I had to cover a girl, she was getting married. I had to work full time for 2 weeks, 9 to 5 for 2 weeks. It was the worst 2 weeks of my entire life. I go, am I this? I feel like I'm coming down with a sickness. I don't know. I'm depressed. It just, I was like, how do people do
We're
this?
not built for that.
Exactly. And so I understand everyone, look, I'm not hating on a corporate 9 to 5. Look, if that's
Yeah.
your jam, that's your jam. And I'm sure people listening, it's not your jam. And that's why you're here.
Yep, exactly. So I feel like it's the perfect time to kind of dive into the 4 phases in our cycle. So I think they are menstrual, follicular, ovulation, and luteal, right?
Boom. Yep.
Okay.
Nailed it.
So can you walk us through each phase individually and then kind of what business tasks we should be focusing on during each phase?
Okay. So, first phase, day one of your period marks day one of your cycle. Now, you have 4 phases of your cycle, like the 4 seasons is the best way I can describe it, like the 4 seasons that nature goes through, right? Winter, spring, summer, fall. That's kind of how I'm going to describe it. The easiest way to understand it. So, your period is the first phase of your cycle. That's your winter.
All I can think of is Game of Thrones. Winter is coming.
So literally, when you're in your luteal phase and you start to feel kind of ugly, we'll talk about that too. Luteal phase is like if there's a certain time of the month you look in the mirror, you're like, nothing's right. Nothing's right. I wore this outfit last week. This looked great. I hate it today.
I
Nothing
hate it.
looks
Yep.
right. That's luteal phase. Winter is coming. So, winter phase, your first phase, menstrual phase, you're on your period. Now, we just like to think about things you would do in the winter. Are you going out? No, you're not. It's cold. You're hibernating. You're resting. Your body's going through a lot. Okay. We don't think about it that way. We just kind of power through it, but your body's going through a lot. So, this is a time to kind of just take it easy. As far as your business is concerned, you're going to be okay if you're not massively productive for 3 or 4 or 5 days. And in fact, a really good way to understand it is that like the more you honor these phases, if you think about, okay, you have a battery, right? A month long battery, not a
Mhm.
day long battery like men
Yeah.
have. If you burn all your battery at a rapid rate because you're not conserving energy when you should be,
Yeah.
then when it comes time when you like should have the energy and the creativity, it's not there and you're just going to feel off. It's going to feel forced. You're going to get frustrated and you're not going to understand like I don't get it. I don't get it. Nothing's working. It's cuz you didn't take care of yourself ahead of time. So it's like kind of delayed effect.
Yeah.
But on your period, just take it easy, rest, self care. This is the biggest thing like self care, journaling, being introspective. So, in business terms, like this is a time when you can look at the past month at kind of everything at your business. Maybe take an inventory of what's going on, what's been working for you, what's not, what feels aligned, what doesn't. This is a time to just kind of be introspective. Then you move into your follicular phase, which is your inner spring. So when you're on your period, all your hormones are at their lowest. This is why you don't feel super motivated or
Hmm.
creative or inspired or energized. All your hormones are low. So you move into follicular, which is your spring. Hormones begin to rise. Now, if you think about spring, this is when like flowers are blooming and things are starting to come alive. That's how you're starting to feel your energy is coming back. Creativity peaks in this phase. So if your period should last anywhere from like 3 to 5, 6 days, 7, that might be a sign that something's going on if your period's a week long. But then you're going to move into follicular, which will last until ovulation, which is mid cycle. So your follicular phase is about 10 days. And this is when creativity is highest and brainstorming, outlining, like mapping out the month ahead. This is the best time to like brain dump, get all your ideas on paper. And again, take that inventory that you did when you were on your period and all those like journaling that you did and look at it
Hmm.
and go, okay, how can I now restructure? Like when you're on your period, taking that inventory, don't do anything with it.
Just write it down.
Yeah. And then once you move into your, because that's not the time.
Yeah.
Once you move to folliculars, that's when you really want to go, okay, now how can I strategize? How can I make this work? What do I have? Map out your calendar for the month. Monthly to-dos are the best for women, not daily to-dos.
Yeah.
Mapping it out monthly and going, okay, in the next 2 weeks, here's what I can get done, or 3 weeks, because my period's coming in another 3 weeks and I'm going to take a few days off.
Winter is coming.
Yes, winter is coming, y'all. Maybe we should make a sweatshirt unless they have
I
it
know.
trademarked.
I'm sure it's trademarked. But I love that analogy. It's so good.
And then, so that's your inner spring. So creativity, also like socializing, like you should have more energy for socializing during this time. Workout in terms of other stuff, nutrition, workouts, nutrition, you want to focus on like healthy fats to prepare for ovulation. It's another thing, even if we are not in a phase of life where we are trying to get pregnant, our body is always trying to get pregnant. And also, disclaimer, this is for women that are not on hormonal birth control. So women with a natural cycle.
Gotcha.
Not on birth control. If you're on birth control, you don't have a hormone cycle at all. It basically just shuts it down and it's just like flatlined. So then after follicular, after you've mapped it all out, ovulation is like your inner summer. You feel hot during this time. You're actually physically slightly more attractive. The bone structure of your face shifts slightly to be more feminine.
What?
So that you're like more attractive to a potential mate. You have like a fertile glow, again, making you more attractive. Partners can perceive you as being more attractive. It's
Oh my
crazy.
God.
And you'll feel it. Like once you know this cycle, you'll be like, oh yeah. So this is mid-cycle, around day 14. All women ovulate kind of on a different day. It depends. 14, 13, 15, 16, 17. But right mid-cycle.
So ovulation would be the perfect time to film content and B-roll, guys.
Boom.
You feel good. I feel like that's when I always film mine. And sometimes I'll notice that it's ovulation. Sometimes I don't, because I track, but I'm not like super intense. I can kind of just know like, okay, if I feel crappy, oh, my period's coming. Okay, take it easy. But I always feel so good around the ovulation, and I want to do my hair and makeup. I want to feel good. And like your content and your B-roll and your videos will just like feel so much better when you feel good in them, right? Like there's an energy in people's content when they feel good filming it. So ovulation, take note.
Yeah.
Film your B-rolls then.
Film your B-rolls, film your content, even recording podcasts. Actually, like the right and left brain hemispheres communicate the most clearly during this time. So you're actually like more eloquent and you enunciate your words better. You can speak your thoughts better. Interviews, like at this podcast interview during ovulation is great. Photo shoots, anything like that. Best time is ovulation. And in terms of just like in life, this is the best time for like date nights and socializing and all of that, in more intense workouts. This is when your energy is the highest. Like I said, inner summer. Like you feel hot, you feel spicy, you feel good.
Well, good thing I am in that part of my cycle for this interview.
There we go.
Feeling it.
See, perfect. And it's like kind of, I almost feel like we instinctively, if we were to get real quiet and only listen internally and map things out, we would actually know how to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
There's a nutrition aspect I teach in my course to cycle syncing and things like that. And I will naturally crave these things when it's time. Like I don't have to look at a chart or anything. I naturally want them. So there's this kind of innate intelligence that's inside of us that can get clouded or quieted or hindered when we're constantly like scrolling or we have constant stimulation. That kind of, it's just internal noise. And so it's just so good to get, I mean, we all know we shouldn't scroll as much as we do, and we all still do, but we're getting better. But yeah, ovulation is the best time for all of that stuff. Anything that's like front facing, you're out there, you're communicating, podcast interviews, photo shoots, anything like that. That's when you're going to feel the best. Now that's going to last. Ovulation is a 1-day event. And this is the only time of your cycle that you can get pregnant. So you're not fertile all the time. You can only get pregnant 6 days out of every cycle. And that's around ovulation. So after ovulation, you're moving to your luteal phase, which is your inner fall or autumn. When the leaves start to change, this is kind of when your hormones start to turn over. This is your longest phase. This lasts about 14 days. So from around, if you have like a perfect cycle where it's 28 days and you ovulate on day 14, this would be from like day 14 to 28. So 2 weeks, half your cycle, you're in your luteal phase. Now the first half, you'll still ride the ovulation high a little bit. It's not like
Mm.
a sudden shift. It's a gradual changing. Again, just like the leaves in the fall, it's a gradual change. So it's not like you have to cram all this content creation and things like that into one day.
Yeah.
You really can. And in fact, I encourage women when they're first on like a syncing your cycle with your life journey to take it week by week. So just to treat menstrual phase as a week, follicular as a week, ovulation as a week, and luteal as a week. It makes it way easier than trying to be super precise at first when you're just trying to get down the principles. So first half of luteal phase, you can still do the ovulation stuff, still record, still film, still create content. And I call the luteal phase the get shit done phase.
I love that.
This is the time, again, if we think about biologically, okay, this is the time when our body would be preparing for a possible pregnancy. So another thing to really be aware of is that your body is on high alert for stress during this
Mm.
time, especially like the week before your period. So like the second half of the luteal phase. And this is because this is when your body would be preparing for a possible pregnancy. So it's like, okay, let's make sure our environment is safe. There's no threats. Everything is good to go. But even again, if we're not trying to have a baby, our body still is. So it's so important to honor that part of it. And the luteal phase, again, nesting. This is like kind of what people call nesting. You might notice that whenever you get that itch to clean or organize or clear out, it's probably during your luteal phase. Probably is. This is when you just like want to clear house. And this is also the time to just get those tasks done. So things that you mapped out
Hmm.
in your follicular phase, maybe you created your content in your ovulation phase. Now this is the time to refine it, to edit, to outline projects, to like write all your captions, all of these kinds of like tasks, projects. You will have so much energy in like those 10 days from like ovulation to about 3 days before your period. That's when you're going to really just not take a nosedive. That's a little dramatic, but it takes a turn quite quickly.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds scary maybe to be like, how am I supposed to get a month worth of stuff done in like 7 to 10 days? But if you did all the front work, right?
Yeah.
You outlined it, if you mapped it out, if you created the content, you already have all of these ideas. And now it's just the execution.
Yeah.
And so that's when you have those like 7 to 10 days to do that. And then you wind down. Winter is
Start
here.
all over.
Start all over. And so at first it might sound counterintuitive to do less, but you're getting more done. But it really works. Like
Yeah.
I promise if you give it a chance and you stop trying to like do everything every single day, it might feel like you're swimming upstream or walking through mud. And this is why. It's because you're working against your biology and against your hormones.
Totally. Now, I know for me, like I can like feel it now. So I do track, but for anyone who's just getting into this, like, is there an app that you use to track your cycle? What's your favorite one?
Yeah. So there's a few different apps. I know since it's so ingrained in my brain, I don't really use one to track the phases. I track my like actual menstrual cycle and my temperature and fertility and all that. So I use Natural Cycles, which has been cleared by the FDA as a form of contraceptive. It has like a patented algorithm that tracks your temperature. It's
Wow.
wild. So that is super accurate for tracking your fertility. That's what I love to use. It's literally my form of birth control. And I use my Aura Ring to sync my temperature. It does all that. But an amazing app is called the 28, and it has your phases. You log in. It's so cool. You do have to pay for it. It's not that much money, but it gives you so many insights. It'll give you like recipes. It'll tell you, hey, you're moving into this phase. Look out for these signs. Natural Cycles will do that a little. It'll just say like, hey, your period's coming. You might notice mood swings, but it's not as cool as 28. And then there's also the Flow app, which probably most people have heard of.
Yeah, I used Flow for a while, and then now I just started using, I think it's called Stardust, and
Yes.
it's all based around like the moon cycles too, and I just love the little reminders. Like when I go into a phase, it'll be like, "Hey, you're probably going to be weak today. Don't try and lift a car." Like it's kind of funny too. I'm like, "Cool, I won't pick up my car."
You're like, right, I'll write that down.
Right? I'm like, "Okay, note to self, don't pick up my car today." But I love that. So if you are trying to use it for just your business, probably Flow, or what was the other one you mentioned?
28.
28. Okay. So I will link both of those below for you guys in the show notes so that if you are wanting to use an app, I found it so helpful in the beginning. It's also what we use for birth control. Didn't think I'd be talking about that today. But so it's just really nice to like track things and know. And they have, little reminders so that you remember to track it. Cause that was something for me too. I used to just write it down in a planner and kind of track from there. But if you forget, you're kind of totally screwed.
Wow.
So I love having the app just like pop up and tell me like, hey, here is what you need to do.
And it's also so cool. And all of them also give you the chance. I know in natural cycles, you could put notes of like any symptoms. Did you have a breakout? Did you feel bloated? Did you feel tired? Did you feel anxious? And you can see the cycle that you go through. And then month after month, if you're like, oh, every day on cycle day 27, I want to burn my business to the ground. Okay, that's just your hormones. Like, don't do it. It's okay. You're not crazy. It's your hormones. Like, that's the biggest thing that cycle syncing and learning my hormones gave me is like understanding the waves that we go through and that it's normal. I mean, massive waves, not so normal, but there's a fluctuation and it's beautiful and it's there to help us and protect us. And I've said before, like the 9 to 5 isn't for women, and it's not, but that doesn't mean that women aren't capable of working hard and running businesses and doing like these big, big things
in our own way.
Yeah. Is that like, oh, you say like women shouldn't work. I'm like, nope, never said that.
Not what we said.
Yeah, we are capable of, I would argue, doing like more than men in some ways. And so I think historically women have always worked. It's just looked differently.
Yeah.
And over the past, 10 years with the rise of hustle culture and all of this and female entrepreneurs, and we've just kind of lost what makes women different and special in that space.
No, totally. Now, I know you mentioned a little bit ago that there are some like changes in us. You said our jaw changes to make us look more attractive, it makes perfect sense, right? Because back, before we were able to track all of this, I'm assuming like the male would find you more attractive. So then they would know then to impregnate you.
It's
so
crazy.
What are some random or weird facts? I know you had like a reel on this that kind of happened during our cycle or our period.
Yeah. So the bone structure of your face shifts slightly and your skin changes actually. So because of the fluctuations in your hormones, sometimes your skin is more oily, sometimes it's more dry. I just did a podcast episode on this and everyone was freaking out because I was like, skin types aren't a thing. Like the same way hair type isn't a thing. Like you don't naturally have oily hair. Like that has nothing to do with your hair type. Skin types aren't a thing. And I feel like that's just when that blew my mind when I realized, oh, like the skincare industry just wants to like take all of our money and make us think we're this type of thing. So sometimes like during your luteal phase, your skin might be oilier because your androgens are higher. So you can actually shift your skincare with your cycle too.
What?
And that also helps prevent breakouts and things like that. That was a crazy one. Also just crazy weird facts. You're like when you're on your period, it's only literally 2 tablespoons of blood usually. And that is clickbaity-ish because obviously it is more than that because you have other stuff going on in your body, but it really is only that much blood. Okay, so some other ones. Oh yeah, your period get worse in the cold. So another crazy fact is your period actually gets worse in the cold. This is mostly due to like kind of like a drop in dopamine and a drop in vitamin D. And during the winter, we're not really moving as much or sweating. So those hot mom walks and hot girl walks are so important for moving like our lymph system and our lymphatic drainage and detoxing excess hormones. You can get pregnant only 6 days out of the month. That's when that people still to this day, they're like, I'm 35. I didn't know that. It's crazy to me that we don't know.
Like, why were we not taught all of this in high school? Like, why was I taught how to, why was I reading history about things that are not relevant anymore, but I wasn't taught how to like track my cycle, pay my taxes, like
I was
things
just
like
gonna say
that. I'm like, why? I wish I would have learned that. Like my husband took home ec in high school and he's like, we did nothing. We like made cookies and we learned how to iron.
I did that too.
And I'm like, why are you teaching us how to iron? Like anybody can figure that out. Like I want to know the nitty gritty things, like how many days I can get pregnant per month. That would have been really relevant information.
Yeah. Instead, we're learning about Pythagorean theorem and then like, oh, you can't use calculators. You're like, all we do now is use calculators.
Yes. My iPhone is my calculator. Like, come on.
Also, during your luteal phase, you're more likely to get sick. So I said during this time, this is when your body's on high alert. And actually, it's when it would be fostering a possible pregnancy. So what your body does is it lowers your immune system so that your body doesn't reject the pregnancy. So a lot of women are like, I get sick right before my period. That's because your immune system is slightly suppressed. And if you were hustling hard
Yep.
Instead of resting when you were supposed to rest, your immune system is now slightly compromised and you could get sick. So I have so many women that are like, I always get sick or I always feel yucky right before my period. And it's like, you got to learn cycle
That's
syncing.
why.
Also, the average woman will spend 10 years on her period in her lifetime.
Oh, we did not need to know that one.
Insane. And it's like back in the day. So, yeah, like I said, my periods were horrible. They literally ruined my life. And now, like, not to sound dramatic, they do not affect my life whatsoever. They don't. I don't take ibuprofen. They don't hurt. I'm not in pain. It's not crazy. I can go on with my day to day life. And I just think that to tell young women that like painful period symptoms are normal and that's just part of womanhood and you might have to stay home from work or stay home from school or cancel things. Like, no, you should not have to miss out. I mean, 10 years of your life, if you have painful periods that are essentially like messing with your actual life, that's so much that you're missing out on
Yeah.
to something that's preventable.
Yep.
Hormonal birth control does not regulate your period, doesn't fix your period. It just shuts it down completely. That's what I talk
Dang.
about all the time. Yeah. Be like, oh no, it fixed my period. I go, it turned it off. It just goes in there. It's exogenous hormones, basically tells your reproductive system, like, we got this. We got this. Just stop.
Wild. And nobody tells you that. Like, I was never on hormonal birth control. I had an IUD for a little while and then I just didn't feel right on it. So I got it out
Yeah.
and I started tracking my cycle. But nobody says that. Nobody tells you that when you go in and you're considering getting on it. I'm like, that's a really big piece of information that I feel like we should be told that. Like, disclaimer, tell me that this is what's really going on.
Yeah. It can affect your mate selection. That's my favorite one to
Wow.
tell people. It can affect, and I've had women go, I was on birth control. I was about to get married. I got off birth control and I left my fiance.
Oh my gosh.
Here's the crazy. It works kind of one of two ways. So when you're on birth control, you're more likely to, and you can look up, there's studies on this. Like, I'm not lying. This is data, real data. The sweaty t-shirt test they did, and they had women on birth control and not on birth control, hormonal birth control, do, like, they had men sweat in a t-shirt. They put them in little baggies. They had women smell them. Okay. And like, not rate attractiveness, but like, it's pheromones, right? And you had to choose between two of them. The women on birth control chose men who had more DNA similarities with them, which is what you do not want. So, for a potential, like for the strongest, most resilient offspring, you want most like different DNA.
Opposites.
It
Yeah.
just makes them the most resilient. So, there was that. And then there's also, they did studies on women on birth control and they had two renderings of men, and one had slightly more female characteristics and one had more masculine. So the brow bone, the jawbone, things like that. Women on birth control chose the more feminine looking men. So like there's just like this
Wild.
running joke of like, if you're on birth control, you probably think Harry Styles is hot. And if you're not on birth control, you probably think like Jason Momoa is hot.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I had no idea. Well, you can really dive deep on all this, you guys. This is intense.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's like our hormones quite literally run everything we do.
Yep.
Sleep, motivation, creativity, libido. I mean, our mood, our appetite, everything. Everything is just like our hormones are just like little messengers that tell different parts of our body what to do and what like hormones, neurotransmitters to produce.
That's so wild to me. Now, are there like snacks or drinks or things that I know for me, like as an entrepreneur, I work from home. I forget to eat all the time, which I know is not good, but are there like little, I don't know, mocktails or snacks that we should be like eating throughout the day to kind of help us through, like just balance our hormones in general, I'd say?
Yeah. So whenever we're thinking about like a hormone balancing, hormone friendly, hormone supportive meal or snack, we want it to be protein focused for the most part, and we want it to be balanced. So protein, fats, and some like healthy carbs, starchy veggies, things like that, fruit. So we never want to eat naked carbs. That's what we want to avoid. And naked carbs are just like plain fruit or crackers or toast. We want to like bulk it up with some protein and some fat. So that would be like apple and peanut butter with maybe some like beef sticks on the side. That's super quick and easy, takes a minute. Or hard boiled eggs or something like that. Instead of toast, maybe we do avocado toast with some like sausage or some protein on the side. It doesn't have to be super crazy, but we just want to make sure that we're balancing it to support our blood sugar. So that's another thing that's going to dictate our energy throughout the day. is our blood sugar. And if our blood sugar is constantly on a roller coaster, our energy is going to be going up and down. We're going to be crashing, and we can't sustain like stable energy and stable moods throughout the day. So it's super important to be eating balanced snacks to support our blood sugar. So like I said, just cheese and cracker. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I call them adult Lunchables. They're one of my favorite little like snacks to make, a charcuterie board, if you
Yep.
will. But that's super easy. And again, if you're sitting at your desk and you can just snack on something, it doesn't have to be super crazy. I would urge you though, all my entrepreneur girlies out there, is to like make time, even if it's 15 minutes, to take a couple deep breaths and eat something. And we just don't want to be all the time eating on the go. It's not good for our digestive system. If we're on the go, our body is in fight or flight. Like we're either in rest and digest and we're calm and we're safe, or we're in fight or flight. So we just want to make sure that whenever we can, we're just taking a moment to eat. Like I said, 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be all crazy. You don't have to have an hour and light a candle and do a whole thing, but just trying to make a few minutes just to support your digestion. And like I said, and your blood sugar, because cortisol spikes, blood sugar spikes, and it's just this whole stress roller coaster. In terms of specific snacks, I love this, like a viral, and everyone's talked about at this point, the raw carrot salad. Or you could just eat a raw carrot, like Bugs Bunny style. You could go for that too. And with the skin on, a big carrot, okay? Not the little baby carrots that are like bleached and
Ugh.
skinned and all of that and chopped up, and it's terrible. And I get it, they're easy, but like make your own little carrot sticks.
Yep.
But with the skin on. So the skin of the carrot actually contains insoluble fiber. And what I do is I take like one big carrot and I wash it, obviously. And then I peel it with a peeler and turn it into ribbons and then make like a little raw carrot salad. So then I'll add some olive oil, some salt, a little apple cider vinegar, sometimes add a little honey and Dijon mustard. And you can have that with any meal or as a snack. And what the insoluble fiber is going to do is it's going to help detox excess estrogen and excess toxins from your body. So you can have this every day of your cycle, but the best time to like utilize it is during your luteal phase. So I kind of didn't really talk about how your hormones fluctuate, but when you're ovulating, all hormones peak. And if you already maybe are teetering on the edge, maybe you have some higher estrogen, if that peaks and you have even more estrogen and you can't get rid of it, that's what's going to lead to those really like painful periods, heavy periods, cramps, acne, bloated water retention. So the more we can support detoxing, again, carrots, so easy, right?
Yeah.
It's delicious. And you just want to make sure you have a fat with it. So if you have a fat, it helps actually absorb the vitamins in it. So like literally I have this healthy ranch, Primal Kitchens ranch. I dip a carrot in ranch and like
Yep.
that's one of my snacks.
We use coconut oil on ours. Is that like I make carrot salads and we just drizzle like a little bit of coconut oil, a little bit of sea salt, and then like a dab of maple syrup because my 3-year-old eats it if I put the syrup on.
Yeah. No, so good. And it really is like I've added even shaved apple. So I've
Oh,
done an
yes.
apple like the same way, and that's super good. Everyone loves it. Like Daniel loves it. I've made it for my family. Like it really is a hit.
Yeah.
And mocktails. I love a mocktail. I'm in my mocktail era. There's a few. So during the day, you can make an adrenal supporting mocktail, and your adrenals are like what secrete cortisol. So supporting your adrenals helps support your stress response. And when we are stressed, as most entrepreneurs in general are, it's just par for the course.
Yep.
We kind of can't avoid it. So the best thing we can do is support it. Cortisol burns through minerals and magnesium and all of these things so much faster when we're stressed. So we want to replace that. So an easy, like I'm sure maybe some of y'all have seen the creamsicle, the orange creamsicle mocktail, which I love to make. It's orange juice, like maybe half a cup of orange juice. It's not a ton. I do a little bit of coconut milk or like any kind of non-dairy milk to make it creamy. And then I'll add collagen. And you can either you want a form of potassium. So potassium is also really supportive of the adrenals and replenishing. It's a really good mineral. And so you can add cream of tartar, which sounds weird. It's tasteless and it just adds a lot of potassium. Or you can add coconut water, another great real food source of potassium. And then a little lime juice for a little extra vitamin C. Like I love it. It's so refreshing. Best, and collagen. I add a little collagen just again to support blood sugar.
Yeah.
We have some fats from the coconut milk or non-dairy milk, some collagen, because orange juice is straight up sugar. And I'm not against sugar or fruit of any kind, but we just want to always make sure, again, no naked carbs, that we're supporting our blood sugar when we can. So that's a really good one. Again, it tastes like a literal creamsicle. It's so good.
It's so good. We have them like every day and we freeze them in like the little silicone popsicle things too.
Oh,
Oh,
yep.
in summer, they're so good. Like my child never has regular, somebody might have given her a regular popsicle,
Yeah.
whatever, but we always make them from like the adrenal cocktail things and they are so good. My current kick right now is I get this like fresh elderberry syrup. Like she makes
Mhm.
it from berries that are never dried. And it's so good. So I put a little bit of elderberry syrup, like a little bit of OJ, not very much, and then sparkling water. And
Mhm.
oh my gosh, it's so good. And you can add like lemons in.
Yeah.
I'll add collagen, but just like always sipping on something like that, I feel like it keeps me alive. Like I have one right here next to me. And without them, like I just don't drink water during the day. I'm not as good at that. So having that like always, I just feel like it really helps my blood sugar stay very stable as I'm stressing
Yeah.
all day as a mom and an entrepreneur and all the things that we have going on.
Exactly. And again, we can't avoid it. Like
Yeah.
you can't, I'm not perfect with anything I do. I don't do everything all day. Stress is unavoidable. Okay. We can't all just like live off the grid and just not work and whatever. Like we have demanding lives. And I don't want anyone to feel like, oh, I'm too stressed. Like it's okay. We could just support it. And yeah, obviously taking an inventory again and saying, what can I take off my plate? What's possible for me to outsource? What's maybe not even making me that much money and I'm actually spending a lot of time on it kind of things, and where can we take the stress off. But yeah, I love the adrenal mocktail. An easy one also, if you're like, that's a lot of ingredients, coconut water, salt, and lime juice
It's so
is like
good.
nature's Gatorade, really.
Yeah.
So those are really easy. I also love to support, again, blood sugar, like before meals. If you're like cooking dinner, again, no one loves apple cider vinegar. I get it. It's gross. But if you do apple cider vinegar with like Olipop or Poppy or some kind of like healthier soda and a splash of apple cider vinegar, what this does is apple cider vinegar has actually been like clinically proven to help reduce a glucose spike. So if you can drink that while you're like making dinner or maybe 15 to 20 minutes before dinner, you can help support your blood sugar and digestion and all of these things in the meantime. And it tastes delicious. There's a new, hopefully, I don't know if it'll still be here when this episode comes out, but Olipop came out with a collab with Barbie and did a peaches and cream flavor.
Oh
And let
my
me tell
gosh.
you, it's incredible. It's incredible.
I saw it on your stories and I texted my husband. I was like, next time you're at the co-op, please make sure and check if they have this. I need it. I don't know if we'll get it because we're like in a smaller town, but like, I really want to try it.
Maybe online.
Yeah. I might have to order a case of it and see if it's good.
It's even loves it. He usually doesn't love, he'll have my healthy sodas, but he loves the root beer, the poppy root beers.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Yeah. Root beer floats with it,
Oh,
life changing.
so good.
And so the other one that I wanted to mention is the Sleepy Girl mocktail, which it's gone viral so many times. It is the main ingredient is tart cherry juice, which actually contains the precursor to melatonin. So this is something you're going to drink at night while you're winding down. Maybe you're watching TV, maybe you're reading, getting ready for bed, taking a bath, sipping on this. You can do, I have tart cherry concentrate, so I just use about a tablespoon and like half a can of sparkling soda, sparkling water, whatever you kind of want to do, the tart cherry juice, and then I add magnesium to it. It is so good. So because it has the precursor to melatonin, it's upping your melatonin without taking a melatonin supplement. And let me tell you, you'll sleep like a rock. Like it really did. And there are certain things where I'm like, is this really going to work? It does. It does. And it's so good. And it's, to me, it's also this thing of like romanticizing your life
Mm-hmm.
as an entrepreneur. Like we're sitting here, we're working all the time. Like, how can we make things more fun?
Yep.
That's my current favorite thing is like, how can I make this more fun, more enjoyable? Like add a little bit of dopamine,
Yep.
make a fun, sparkling drink, even if you're just reading in bed. It really does feel like a little treat at the end of the day.
Yeah. I literally have at least 2 drinks near me at all
Mhm.
times. I need my mocktails. I need my sparkling. I need my warm drinks. Okay. So I know as the listeners are all busy entrepreneurs, right? Most of us listening to this are, what would you say top 5 daily tips for balancing our hormones, like easy things that we can do, because I know, there's so many things we can do, but if you were to pick like 5 that they could start with now, what would they be?
Okay. I'm going to try to keep them zero cost. So, waking up and eating a protein focused breakfast within an hour of waking, which I'm not asking you to make like a 3 egg sausage, sourdough toast, all of that. Like, I understand, especially if you're not used to eating breakfast, that might sound insane. Something protein focused, even if it's a protein shake, even if it's like maybe a little slice of avocado toast and some sausage, maybe it's Greek yogurt and berries. Eating a protein rich breakfast within an hour of waking up is so good for our stress hormones and for our blood sugar to set the stage for the rest of the day. So, eating breakfast within an hour of waking up, getting morning sun, so good. All right, and not even morning sun, just morning light, full spectrum light. It doesn't, if it's cloudy where you are, that's okay. Just getting light in the first, like within, as soon as you can after waking, really. If you wake up when it's dark, then as soon as the sun comes up. But this is going to help set you basically, when you view light in the morning, it basically sets a 12-hour timer, a countdown timer on when your body's going to release melatonin. So this just helps support your circadian cycle and is going to help you sleep better, feel better, just have a more consistent cycle. So you can eat your breakfast outside if you want, and you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Now, I should have mentioned this first because this probably is the most important one. No coffee on an empty stomach.
Life changing.
Let me repeat that. No coffee on an empty stomach, y'all. This is probably the most pervasive habit, even more than like skipping breakfast. I would say that there are more, especially women out there, just waking up, drinking coffee. And I get it. Okay. I used to be that. I used to be you. I love coffee. I will never give up coffee. It is my favorite ritual. And now I have something small. I do like a little yogurt bowl, or I have like a protein shake if I'm not super hungry before I have my coffee. It is going to make such a massive difference, not only for anxiety, okay, for like starting your day stressed. And the crazy thing is, for so long, I wasn't even aware of it. I wasn't even aware until I started eating before I had coffee. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so much more calm. And I
Yeah.
wasn't drinking a ton of caffeine. Like, I drink half calf, and I drink like 1 cup of half calf, which is literally half a cup of coffee. But eating first, I have so much more clear, sustained energy than like all of a sudden bouncing off the walls. Like, I already can't focus. It's wild.
I'm a different person. Like, I've been doing this for probably 2 or 3 years now. And when I first started doing it, I just added protein to my coffee, and it still was too much. I still felt like a little wired. And now I am religious about it. Like, my lattes, I do not have them until I've had at least 30 grams of protein. Like, my brain just needs it. And on the days where I like don't eat as much before my coffee, I'm literally like wired and I feel insane all day. Like,
Yeah.
I can't tell you this. This would be my number one thing, guys. If you are drinking coffee first, please just eat before, please.
And just something small, like you're saying, like even adding, because a lot of say, can I add collagen to it? Can I add protein? I'm like, it's still not the same. Your body needs food before the caffeine.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does. It is wild how much of a difference it makes. And it's simple. You're already going to eat breakfast, hopefully, please. Just eat your breakfast before your coffee. Simple. Another really good one is walking walking in general, getting like 8,000, 10,000 steps a day. What I like to do, sometimes I take long walks, like one long walk, but I really try to get out sporadically throughout the day and just kind of break it up, especially if we can walk for like even 5 to 10 minutes after you eat. This also really helps reduce any like glucose spikes or blood sugar spikes, supports digestion, and it's just a good way to just get out and get some sun and be in nature. So especially for the women who are like, I don't have time to like get out there for a full hour. Like, do you have 15 minutes? Do you have 10 minutes? Any little habit counts. It's another thing. You don't have to do it all. Every little habit you add truly does make a difference. Like, it really does. And then the last one, and again, it's hard to say which one's the most important. Please stop scrolling before bed.
Yeah.
For the love of your hormones, for the love of your mental health, everything. And again, if you're in the habit and you've been doing it for so long, you don't realize how much it's affecting you. But getting off screens, like at least an hour before bed makes
Yep.
such a difference. Again, your cortisol, your melatonin. What I even found, this is so crazy. I wore one of those like blood sugar monitors, the continuous ones. And it was a night where we ate dinner early. We ate dinner at like 5. We went on a walk and then we were getting in bed. It was like 9:30 and I was scrolling and nothing crazy. Typical scrolling. Typical just like looking at your Explore tab, whatever. And then I go to like check my blood sugar before I go to bed. My blood sugar had spiked while I was scrolling because it was creating a stress response in my body,
Oh my
which
gosh.
is wild.
Wild.
Yeah. It also delays melatonin.
Oh, I bet. I'm sure. I started leaving mine in the other room. Like I plug it in the other room. And I actually just listened to a podcast episode the other day. I don't remember who it was, but they were saying they got this thing that like gamifies not being on your phone. So like her and her spouse do it and they plug it in and then like they try and see each day like who's on their phone the least amount. Obviously, I would lose because I work on my phone and my husband does not. But just this idea of like, oh, let's try to be on our phone as little as possible. Because even if you're not scrolling, I feel like we have the world at our fingertips. So I'm like, oh, I need to order this one thing on Amazon. And then I go order and then I go somewhere else and then I check something else. And then I'm just like mindlessly scrolling. So I even started putting it away when we were watching TV at night because I found myself just aimlessly scrolling while we're watching Friends. And I'm like, why? Why do I need to be doing 2 things at once? It literally makes 0 sense. There's also a setting on your iPhone that you can change it to like a red tint. And I love it. It's like, it's my setting is
Triple click. I have it on the triple click.
yes, you can do a triple click or like mine's the back of my phone. If I tap the back side of my phone 3 times, it goes red. So I'll do that at night. And I mean, I double up. I wear red light glasses at night too, because I don't want any blue light before bed. And like, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably online, you're probably on Instagram selling something, right? Like we're on our phones so much. So anything I can do to kind of combat that and not mess up my sleep at night. So that has helped me so much. Like all these little hacks help so much.
Yeah, it's so helpful. And the red light setting, blue light glasses, because yeah, let's be honest, like we're all still on we're still watching Love Island. Okay. Like, yes, I'm off my phone, but I love a mindless,
Yep.
guilty pleasure reality, trashy reality TV before bed. It just like, it's a
helps.
treat. Again, it just helps my brain just shut off.
Yeah.
And I used to be, now looking back, I'm like, I was addicted to stress hormones. Like I used to be like a Criminal Minds, like true crime, like obsessed with the darkest stuff. And I just realized I was addicted to that, like to that feeling.
Yeah.
And so blue light blocking glasses, game changer.
Yeah.
Game changer if you're on screens or anything at night. Also like changing your lights in your home. You can change them to red bulbs, but also or just after dark, only having like eye level lights. So not having I'm all pointing like they can see. Not having overhead light because let's think about this. Overhead lights, evolutionary. We only had light in the past 100 years. Okay. Before that, if there was an overhead light, it was the sun. And the sun was out and it was daytime. So what we're telling our bodies if we have overhead lights at night is like, hey, it's daytime. Like we don't need to get tired. We don't need to do any of that. Like, don't worry, there's light. And like, I find overhead lights offensive at night. Like if Daniel turns the closet light on, like I'm not coming close to it. I'm like, how do you do that at night? Like you're crazy.
Yeah, we ended up getting these like little salt lamp plugins because I mean, I have she's almost 4, a toddler. So I can't have it like completely dark and I don't really want loose candles in the house. So we ended up getting these like, they're like crystal pink salt lamps.
I love those.
And they just plug in around the house and we're able to turn those on and it's so helpful. But yeah, my husband is like offended if I have to turn the light on for any reason. I'm like, you have your red light glasses on. You'll be fine.
You'll be okay.
I just need to see this. But yeah, so many helpful things. This was amazing, you guys. Emily is on Instagram at Little Ray of Health. I will tag her below in the show notes. But if anyone is looking to kind of balance their hormones first and then get more into cycle syncing with their business, do you have any resources for them that they can kind of get more information on that?
Yes. So my master resource would be my online course, the Balance Bay Blueprint, which is a comprehensive, self-paced online course that teaches you how to use food as medicine to balance your hormones for easier periods. Like if you're struggling with painful periods, hormonal acne, any of that kind of stuff, the course is really the mecca. It covers gut health, metabolism, nutrition, sleep, stress, cycle tracking. There's recipes. There's so much in there. It's like a gold mine. So that I have that online course. But if you're looking specifically for, you're just like, you know what, that's cool, but all I'm looking for is like how to use cycle syncing for my business. I have a resource called Go With Your Flow. It's a masterclass that teaches you how to use your hormones and the phases of your cycle for business. There is some nutrition, so it's not like it's just strictly business. It goes deeper into kind of what we talked about today and how to basically modify your lifestyle so that you can live in tune with your cycle instead of working against it, which, like I said, truly was the game changer and the key to like growing my business in a sustainable way without burning out.
Which is, I feel like, what everyone listening,
Yeah,
that's what I need. Just
yeah.
like constantly making sure that I'm taking care of myself while I'm scaling, because if not, then you're going to scale and then burn out, and then it's not really worth the scaling. So thank you so much for being here, Emily. This was amazing. I feel like this is my favorite episode yet, which I know my podcast is new, but this was amazing. And I'm going to practice what Emily is preaching and head out on my hot mom walk and eat a snack while I'm walking. So we will see you guys on next week's episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and my guests today. If you learned anything from our episode, I would love it if you could share it over on your Instagram stories and tag me at Abigail Pugh. Until next time, love you, mean it.